With William Hartnell leaving the title role, there were many, including those in the BBC, that thought the show was now coming to its conclusion. It was a radical thought to replace the main actor with another. With a different actor playing the role, it was pretty much assured that the audience wouldn't accept it. The thought that the Doctor might not have been human had been played out during Hartnell's run. The idea that he could regenerate his body was something new. It was a wild card with the hope that the audience would be able to get past the new actor being the same person, but at the same time different. It was a genius idea, but was one that still had no guarantee of success. Patrick Troughton was not their first choice, and was several positions down the list. Initially, he didn't want to do it. He thought the show had run its course and that the audiences wouldn't accept a change in actor either. In the end, he decided to give it a go, but has been quoted as saying he thought it might last only 6 weeks. He felt strongly about being a character actor and was worried about typecasting. He considered makeup and playing the Doctor very serious at first, but in the end found a look that spoke to him, and a new and very different Doctor was born. Like many of the Doctors, his run feels much longer than it actually is. He only did 3 years, the same as William Hartnell, before the fear of typecasting as well as the difficult timetable for filming started to get to him. He liked the fantastical elements of Doctor Who and thought that while they might be scary at the moment, it wouldn't have a prolonged effect on kids. He didn't like the idea of villains being everyday objects that kids would have to deal with, like their toys or teddy bears. William Hartnell is often forgotten, which is wrong, as without him there would not have been Who. But perhaps equally forgotten in some ways is what Patrick Troughton brought to the role. His new creation was loved, and for the first time audiences accepted a change in who played Doctor Who. Without his performance and love of the role, it never would have gone on. The first thing that strikes me about both the first and second Doctor sourcebooks is that they are far more than just an RPG book. Many times RPG books are mostly useful only in the confines of the game. But both of these books are great reads for any fan of Doctor Who. Yes, there is game stats for new gear, villains and NPCs, yet it goes much more and much deeper than that. The first chapter covers Who is Who, playing the second Doctor and general information about him. We get stats for this version of the character, as well as a brief bio and stats on all his companions and the TARDIS as it was in his era. It's not incredibly deep, but it was still an enjoyable read and might contain a couple of things you didn't know. The second chapter is new gear, but mostly new rules, elements that existed in the second Doctor's era. This includes new traits as well as rules for gadgets, things like how the Doctor's recorder can be used to ignore questions he doesn't want to answer, just like he does in the show. It's not a big section, but it is fun. The enemy section is cool, and I enjoyed reading it a lot. It talks about the different armour the Cybermen wear and how it may fit in chronologically. The Cybermen especially changed the most in the second Doctor's era, and by the invasion had started to look like the more modern versions that we are familiar with. Each come with their own stats, a small section on the Daleks, the Great Intelligence, and the Ice Warriors are all included. Where the first Doctor's great enemy were the Daleks, the second was the Cybermen, Ice Warriors and the Great Intelligence, who he faced multiple times, but really I think it's the Cybermen which stood out for me in the second Doctor's era. The remaining chapters centre on the actual adventures of the TV series. I have read a review that said that they felt the books didn't add anything because it covers the show and things we already know. On this I disagree. This is more than just an episode guide, though that element is heavily included. It looks at each story from a plot point of view. It explains what is done well and how that can be used in a game, as well as further adventure ideas. Even the episode element is a great way to see the show change and grow. If you started with the first Doctor's Guide and then moved to the second, you see the ideas getting bolder, and it's a great way to learn about the second Doctor. Patrick has been long gone, and for newcomers to Doctor Who, learning about its past is very cool. With new game stats for NPCs and gear, as well as villains like the Yeti, it's loaded with good ideas and things that can be used in any Doctor Who game, regardless of the era. There is also a theme that runs through Patrick's era. Science without control, and on more than one occasion weather is used as a catastrophic event, or some madman or alien using it as a weapon. Companies without Overwatch is also a sub-theme throughout his era. This is a good way to look at how a GM might run a season of adventures. Overall, if you're a fan of the show or a GM for the RPG, I think you will be happy with this book.